Well, hey there, this is Ranger Dave and welcome to West Valley Rule. Well, today I'm going to get back up on a favorite soapbox of mine, and because again I see it every day, it being wrong practices every day. And what I'm going to be talking about, I discussed some of this stuff in a video called Runoff. Okay, I'm going to be elaborating a little bit more, kind of touching on the same topic a little bit. And what I'm going to talk about is land management, range management. Now, some of you might say, Ranger Dave, you've never been to school. What do you know about range management? You're not an expert. You didn't go get a college education on it. Well, okay, that's true. Okay, but in my opinion, that's exactly what makes me an expert. Okay? Think about this. We've been churning for 100 years or more even. Okay? We've been churning out ecology students. Spending high dollar on their ecology degrees, becoming experts. Is it any better? Okay, are the grasslands getting bigger? Are the wildfires in California getting smaller? Okay. Well, maybe these students aren't putting into practice what they've learned. Maybe that's it. No? Okay, I would venture they are putting into practice what they've learned. Okay? The experts. Once again, the experts that we've trained in colleges are wrong. Okay? I really think that's what a lot of people got to get their heads around. Like on many topics, the experts are wrong. Okay? What did we learn during COVID? The experts were wrong. The experts. So when it comes to range management, land management, sorry, the experts are wrong. Okay? And then, so what happens when you find out, everything you've learned in school isn't having an effect? In fact, it's getting worse. Okay, well, it can't be my education. I would have to admit I'm wrong. I can't admit I'm wrong. Okay, so what you're going to wind up doing is finding a cause outside of yourself that absolves you of any responsibility. It must be something greater than me. Climate change. That's it. Climate change. My education is perfectly fine. It must be the climate change, and it's everybody else's fault that things are getting worse. Well, now, just to those, don't you, what? I don't believe in climate change? Well, yeah. Actually, I do believe in climate change. Okay, the climate is changing. Or it has changed in many ways, but it's changed for the wrong reasons, and we go about the wrong solutions to that change, and of course it gets worse. Then of course you got to keep it going because it's not solved. It's clearly not solved. The experts won't admit they're wrong, and we churn out essentially more students that are going to be wrong. So essentially give them a wrong reason to be wrong right out the gate. So essentially this current crop of ecology students coming out the gate has they're wrong, and they know that they don't realize that they're wrong, but again, they got a big idea on how they can be wrong and still be right in their minds. And that would be climate change. So what I'm going to be talking about today is some management ideas and techniques that actually can restore areas, if even large areas or even small areas. But again, none of us can essentially turn back the clock, but we can turn back the clock in our small areas and become part of the solution rather than part of the problem. You can be an expert in because you're actually not an expert. Okay? So let's get started on that. We're going to be discussing a number of things, and hopefully we come to some right conclusions. All right, we're going to have a brief visit to my library. Now we're talking about soils and dirt. Okay, what's the difference? Well, most people think it's the same. Not quite. Soils contain organic material. Dirt is your base. What's been happening over the years is we are allowing our soils to become dirt, and desertification become deserts, and we need to reverse that process. We need to think about it this way. It's real simple. You need to think about turning your dirt into soil, and that gets into proper management. Now, for those who follow the experts, well, again, what I've been saying is the experts are wrong. Now, of course, if you want to, well, we have a mindset these days. We got to find an expert. Well, okay, I'll give you an expert. The expert that I rely on is this guy, Allan Savory. Holistic management. That's what I try to practice. Essentially, on a small scale, the things that he outlines in his book, that he gets to practice on a large scale. Now, he's an expert that figured out that he had been taught wrong. And you know how I really know that this guy is right? Because the amount of experts that say he's wrong. Yeah, that's kind of the world we live in now. Okay, you find the people that are right by looking at the chorus of those that say they're wrong. Okay, it's sad the way it is, but that's the state of modern education. Now, again, I can't bring a herd of bison onto your place. Who can do that? But you can put into practice, essentially, in a small scale, the very things that he's talking about, holistic management. You can start turning your dirt into soil, and soils retain moisture. Soils are more fertile. You can do more with them, and it has a cooling effect. You can walk onto any desert, and of course you get the heat of the sun. It's baked soil and things like that. Okay, you get into an area that's been treated proper, and it's cooler. It has the soil has a spongier effect. It's easier to dig. It's easier to manage. It's easier to grow. So we need to start doing that. And again, most of us have to start small. Well, how about goats and chickens? Yeah, most people can do that. And it's how you manage that, essentially. Manage its if you can't free range, well, you have to find ways to essentially replicate that free range process, and that's what I have tried to put into practice on my place. It's really quite simple. Okay, so let's think about these things. You can't bring in bison. Would be nice. You can't bring roaming herds in, but I can bring in those roaming chickens. Yes, I can. Okay, once again, I'm standing in front of what today's would be called an improved property. Okay, can you see the improvements? Okay, I can almost guarantee you that those piles of brush will be burned. They won't be chipped, they will be burned. Okay, so what happens is you've just essentially plowed under. This is on a small scale was what has destroyed the major grasslands and rangelands in America. This is just a small sample of what has happened on a large scale. You wind up plowing under in a variety of ways, essentially large areas of natural soil. Okay, what happens is you get rid of your perennial grasses. Okay, you plow those perennial grasses under. Those are your deep-rooted grasses. Those are the ones that hold your water in. Okay, once you turn it into this, okay, what's left? Well, what's going to happen is it's open season for annuals. Okay, these are the plants that spring up quickly, dry up, and die, and they seed themselves via seeds, via the air. Okay. Okay, so what happens is you'll wind up with areas that, well, we know annuals, for a lot of ways we call them weeds. Okay, so what will spring up will be what was annuals, okay, or weeds, or annual grasses. They will spring up, get very tall, they will die. Okay, they will go dry, and that sets you up for wildfires. Your perennials essentially reduce wildfires because they stay green just at the surface. Okay, they never completely die. Okay, they have deep roots. Essentially, if you did have a wildfire, they would spring up. But what happens is once you plow that under, then you wind up with nothing but annuals. Now, how would you fix this? You got to think about it like in the how did the American bison essentially keep lush rangelands over the American West all those years? Well, okay, they ran in herds. Okay, they ate perennials primarily. Okay, they pooped, they peed, and they ran across the plains. Essentially, what they were doing with all that hoofing, the hoofs thundering, you got to think of it as, okay, if you have a nice Bermuda lawn, okay, now what do you do? What do you have to do periodically to not lose that Bermuda lawn? Okay, it's called dethatching. Everybody knows about dethatching. If you don't dethatch a nice lawn, eventually it will choke, it will die, or it gets spotty. It won't be a healthy lawn. You have to dethatch it. So when we got rid of the big herds, okay, we got rid of essentially the mowers and the dethatchers. Now, then we wind up turning the American plains into this. Okay, the annuals spring up. Well, okay, well, we got to put some cows out there. Okay, so it no longer supports large herds because it's annuals. Your perennials are gone. Okay, so what happens then? Well, they won't. These lands won't support large herds anymore. We'll put out 2 or 3 cows, and we will essentially sustain it, or we'll preserve it. Okay, so we've gotten into the practice of preserving rather than restoration. Okay, think about it. Would you dethatch? Everybody knows about dethatching. Okay, it's a whole row of blades just spinning. Essentially, think about that as a herd of bison roaring through your lawn. Now, essentially, why would you dethatch your lawn with one blade? Think about that. Would you do that? Would it help? Would it preserve your lawn? Would it? What idiot would do that? Okay? That makes absolutely no sense. So what you need is to, in small ways, get animals back involved. Now, you can't take a property like this and stick a herd of bison out there, okay? But you can essentially use smaller livestock on smaller areas, and in larger areas, you use paddock systems for larger areas, and then you bring in your larger animals, okay? You bring your mowers in, you bring your essentially dethatchers in, okay, you feed them perennial grasses. They will eat that, and then essentially over time the land will be restored. Okay, let's think about that. Okay, I'm on the same property. I'm kind of essentially down in a gully or small wash, and again, this should be an area that would essentially hold water, okay, be moist. And again, look what we've done to it. You got your crust. Break through that crust. It clumps a little bit, but we've been getting a wet winter. Okay, but still, there's nothing. The next rain, and we're expecting some in a couple days. That rain is going to flow through here, and not much is going to slow it down, and it's not going to soak in, or not soak in near as much as it could have. Now, how do you solve that? Essentially, what I was talking about, you bring in your herds, your small herds, and essentially you put down your material, and then you essentially have them work that material in as they move across. Preferably it's been laced with or has perennial grasses in it. And you bring in your herd animals. You bring in your chickens. You bring in your goats. On larger areas, you would bring in your cattle and essentially feed them perennials. 1 or 2 seasons, all this stuff has been worked into the soil by them moving through. You've added your material back into the ground. You haven't taken any machinery. We don't need machinery to restore the plains. We just need herding animals. And again, you do this over a wide area. Now you have essentially vegetation. You've added your perennial seeds back into the soil and essentially give it a couple seasons and you're back in business. Okay, once again, I'm going to show you. I dug a little bit of dirt on that parcel to the south, the improved property. And you could see, we've had a wet winter. You could see that there was a little bit of moisture. Now I'm going to show you an area that has been essentially treated with using animals to essentially restore the ground, restore the desert. Okay. I want you to notice the difference in the soil color. And unlike normal desert, look how deep I was able to go quite easily. Let's just turn over that dirt. That's no longer dirt anymore, that's soil. Okay? Look at the difference in the moisture content. You can see vegetative matter. It doesn't fly away in dust. Remember how we had a lot of dust with that other soil. When you see dust flying across the desert, what you're seeing is dirt flying away. What could be soil if we treated it proper? You see roots down there. More roots. Did you see, were there any roots down in that other soil? No? Because they wouldn't manage it. We need to treat the land differently. You got to give back to the land and the land will give to you, but you got to give to it first. There's your solution right there. You take your animal waste, you dump it in an area where you've got chickens, and let them dig it in. That's something you're not going to learn in college. That's what they're not teaching you. You understand how animals interact with one another in their environment. Think about it. All we need is more chickens, and we can solve that problem of climate change. You don't need a Tesla. You don't need wind farms. What you need is goats and chickens. Well, I hope you have a better idea. Am I completely right in these things? Well, maybe not, but essentially, what do I know? I don't know anything that I got out of the schools, but I do know what has worked for me. And that's better than any expert from a college education background that you can find. Now, maybe to become that expert, you need to try it and put it into practice and see if it works for you. Because again, the stuff we're learning, that people are learning in schools, the stuff that the experts are telling you, is clearly wrong. So essentially, we need to re-examine these things and try to get them right. Essentially, at least on a small scale. And then hopefully maybe neighbors will see it or somebody else will pick up on it, and essentially you can start solving these bigger bigger issues. But again, it's going to start with small people like us, essentially trying to get it right, ignoring the experts, and putting into practice things that actually do work. And we'll see you next time on West Valley Rural. Have a great day.